another episode of Routes Through Pokemon. I'm Shea Locke.
I'm Ruby.
And today we have our guest host,
Rosella.
And we are venturing through, this is one of our side episodes where we talk about the manga and the anime as we progress through the games. And we've finished Red and Blue now, so we have a little bit of a bridge to cover with a lot of the manga and a lot of anime, because the anime decided to go in a whole new direction as far as the story goes. They added a whole new thing that doesn't exist in the games. Alright, so this week we will be discussing chapters 41 through
47?
46.
Dang it.
6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 chapters of the manga. These are all from volume 4, where we pick up with Yellow. Well, eventually. Sorry, spoilers. And then for the anime, we will be discussing episodes 27, 28, 29, and 30. Alright, but before we jump into all of the discussion on the manga and anime, let's catch up on where we're at in some Pokemon video games and stuff.
Nope.
I do have a Luxury V Pokemon card.
A what, V?
A Luxury A.
Luxury.
I think it's Luxury.
I'm pretty sure you've already talked about this.
Oh, the Shinx? Is that what we're talking about? Shinx evolutions?
Mm-hmm.
So there's Shinx, Luxio, and Luxray. So it's probably Luxray?
Luxury V.
Because I doubt it would be the middle evolution.
Yeah, you were talking about how you got it from a party.
That's awesome. And then I know Rosella and I have completed the main story of Sword and Shield.
Mm-hmm.
So that was exciting. We even played a little bit more because, well, I did it with one of my other kids because he wanted to play in the wild area for a bit. So we were hanging out doing some of those raids. But in the process, I found out that we get the Master Ball right afterwards because we didn't leave our room after we beat the game. We just turned it off because we needed to go to sleep. And so we get the Master Ball, and then I went to go visit Hop's house to see if there's anything going on there, and I found a Pokeball right in Leon's room, I believe, with a note for us, and it was a Charmander that he gave us.
And you evolved your...
Yeah, mine's already a Charmeleon. Yep. So that's fun.
He evolves things in Scarlet and Violet with other people.
Yeah, Scarlet and Violet, we need to do some more work on that, too. Because
Do we
we're...
though?
I think so.
I want to play with
I would-
want to.
I would like to beat that game
So that
before we get to it
So you can restart.
in our Pokemon podcast.
Because
Well,
I
if we don't, we'll just have to restart it, sadly.
I want to...
Then I can continue playing Violet.
What? No.
I like this idea.
No, that's not how that's gonna go.
If we don't beat it
We've
before...
already agreed.
Only because we're playing it this way right now.
No. I'm sorry, there's gonna be a long gap in the game because we are gonna finish Scarlet and Violet. If that means I get Violet.
Well, we have these long gaps because of the anime and stuff that we have to get through, so there's plenty of time to work on it. Alright, so let's get into... We'll start with the manga, I think.
Okay.
So, we have chapter 41, Ponyta Tale. So, like, we just finished the first 3 volumes of the manga, which is all about Red's journey, right? And he just finished first in the whole Pokemon tournament and all that stuff. So now that the Pokemon League is finished and Red won, we find ourselves back at Saffron City, next to the collapsed and wrecked Sylph Company building. So remember way back in the volumes, there was, I think it was in volume 3 as well, where they fought a huge battle at Saffron City and the Sylph Company fighting Sabrina and Koga.
Yeah, I totally
Koga?
remember.
Koga.
Where Red gets trapped in a room and then he's like...
Electrified by Lieutenant Surge, and Blue gets covered in muck or Grimer or whatever.
That's messed up, killing children.
So crazy.
It was crazy, wasn't it? So, remember, by the end of that, the whole building got destroyed.
And Venus, or his Bulbasaur...
His Ivysaur.
His Ivysaur evolved into Venusaur.
Yes, it did. So anyway, so we're back at seeing that scene in the collapsed building, and some woman with a cane is walking through the wreckage, and she discovers the badge amplifier that they had during all that. Remember the badge amplifier? It was the thing that you could put all the badges inside? And that's what they used to create the weird monstrosity that was the 3 legendary birds mixed to one.
That was so crazy. I'm like, what did they do to that?
So anyway, so some strange lady, who we did see a glimpse of back during the tournament.
She's not strange. I know exactly who she is.
But we didn't get the names back then.
Oh, guys, you dumb out there because it's obvious.
Anyway, it's Agatha of the Elite Four,
Thank
but she was she was among the crowd watching Red win the championship as well. So they've been around. So yeah, she finds it, and that's all we really get. She gets this found discovery. So then we find out that it's been 2 years since the battle at Silphco. And we're back to Pallet, and there's a runaway Ponyta with a scared rider on its back that turns out to be a postman, right? He's got letters.
Yep.
And Red saves the day with his Venusaur, because the flower catches the rider.
But the postman doesn't know it's Red.
Right.
Just to be clear.
Yeah, he doesn't know who Red is. Because he's carrying a letter for the 9th Pokemon League tournament winner, because that was 2 years ago was the 9th tournament.
Yeah.
Right?
And he has no idea who that is.
Well, he might know it's Red, but he might not know Red on sight. Like, he might not know Red when he sees him. Who knows? Anyway, so he finds out that it is Red that's there. Red introduces himself or whatever, so he gets the letter and he opens it, and we find out that it's a challenge to a battle. He's being challenged. And then we cut to some mountains where Bruno of the Elite Four is training, battling an Onix. And he really has this cool thing that he uses when he's throwing his Pokeballs.
Yeah.
It's connected to a chain. So it's
Yeah.
Like a nunchuck thingy.
Yeah, it's kind of like a weird, almost like a nunchuck thing, yeah.
Wait. The nunchuck thing showed up here? I'm sorry.
Yeah, he uses it at one point there, yeah.
I thought it was after the cool thing Yellow's.
Oh, yeah, no. Bruno uses one here. But then, he uses an interesting that says Pokeball on the end of a chain, and he thrusts it out and releases the extendable limb Pokemon, Hitmonlee, who pulverizes the Onix, because he's fighting, and Onix is rock. But yeah, it's just, I find Hitmonlee in this very interesting, how his legs just kind of stretch out and stuff. Like, those are springs.
Yeah.
So, that's cool. And then,
the pictures look like it Onix.
Yikes, maybe he killed the Onix.
Or maybe it just connects back
the
together.
Elite Four aren't the nicest people.
But then we find out that Lorelei, who's also of the Elite Four, is watching from a cliff, and she says she sent the challenge. She says that she's the one who sent the challenge to Red under Bruno's name. So the challenge is for Bruno to fight Red, but Lorelei's the one masterminding it all, which is kind of weird.
Well, I mean, she's probably... It's kind of like where Agatha is Agatha, but then Lorelei is kind of the person who schemes. Bruno's the force, and the other guy, I can't remember his name. Lance is the leader.
Yeah,
Parts
that makes sense. Job. But it just, Bruno also seems annoyed about it all. And she claims it's actually Lance's idea, so it was his plan.
Nice.
And so then, and that Bruno should just get it done. And we know that Lance is also an Elite Four member, from those of us that have played Red and Blue, specifically. He's the final one, the Dragon Trainer. So then, a month later, after the invitation for a battle, Misty hasn't been able to get in contact with Red, and so she's talking to Oak on a vid screen or whatever. And Oak says he hasn't heard from Red either since the challenge. And he thinks that Red is a decent trainer, and he's just annoyed that Red still hasn't finished the Pokedex. So, like, he'd given Red the Pokedex to go fill out, but Red's been so busy doing these battles that he hasn't finished filling it out, and so Oak is annoyed about it. So then, and this also means that we have just learned that Red probably isn't a gym trainer, like he talked about being by the end of the other one when he was talking.
He was going to be a gym leader.
Yeah, after he left Viridian City, he said he'd come back and be a gym leader, maybe, or that's what he wanted to be at least.
Tisk.
So then Oak has also been busy on a new Pokedex, and he's learned that there are a lot more Pokemon beyond the 151.
150 boys.
Because Mew is the 151st entry, the mythical Pokemon.
Yeah, except we don't get Mew in the game, so I don't understand.
Well, back in the day, you could. There was different promotions where you could get a code or something to get Mew in the game.
So cute.
So you're going to find when we're playing through these series of games that there's certain things we won't be able to access because they were only a time thing back then that you could do.
Ooh.
Which is part of the reason I want to play Scarlet and Violet now, so we can get the things that we can get while we're playing it.
Yeah, it sucks that we aren't going to be able to do it later. I wish.
Well, we'll play Scarlet and Violet again later, but...
Yeah, but we're not going to be able to do the thing to get Mew.
But we already have the Mew and we can trade this.
We're just going to trade it to ourselves.
Exactly, we will just trade those over.
I'm going to trade all the EVs to myself, too.
Oh, absolutely. Anyway, and let's see, and then we see some files with only silhouettes, but they're silhouettes of Pokemon that we have not seen in Red and Blue.
Bum, bum, bum. Can I see?
That looks like Venusaur.
Well, it can't be Venusaur because Venusaur...
One looks like Bayleaf.
Who's Bailey?
The evolution of a grass Pokemon starter. Oh yeah, they might not even be anything specific. Later on we get some more specific silhouettes. These might just, they just made them dark blobby things.
Dark
It looks like they just took paper
Yeah. Just put a kind of vague shape. They might have been meant to be something. I don't know. Of course, I also don't know my Pokemon very well after the 151. So then Misty and Oak are talking about the Pokedex and the letter that Red got being handwritten instead of typed, which seemed odd to them. And then the door rattles and electricity is coursing through it. So yeah, the door is rattling or whatever. It looks like, what the heck is this electricity? Yeah. And so Oak
puts on a rubber glove.
uses a glove, yep, because he's like, well, there's electricity charging through this door, so I'm going to touch it barehanded. So Oak is not an idiot. This is always good.
Well, I feel like we already knew this. He created a Pokedex.
And he used to be a champion Poke trainer, too.
Yeah. Pretty sure he's not dumb.
So Oak uses a glove to open it up, and he even thinks that it might be Red in his Pikachu, since there's the electricity, and they've been wondering where Red is. But it turns out that it is only a Pikachu, and it's a Pikachu that is in rough shape.
Real bad shape.
Misty and Oak are concerned for Pikachu, and then we cut to a person arriving in Pallet Town with a big, old, wide-brimmed hat. So it's just a huge, old, wide-brimmed hat. Which we can assume is probably yellow in color. I think on the cover it's yellow, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah.
He's riding the duo.
Yeah. And he asks if anyone has seen Pikachu, and he draws a picture of the Pikachu for them to look at. And that sort of serves as a Pokedex with info of the kind of Pokemon and its attacks. So this character has its own
Pokedex.
interesting kind of Pokedex.
I like that Pokedex.
I'm sure you do, because you are our artist, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's the kind of Pokedex you would keep. Alright, so then, Chapter 42. Do That Duo is what it's called. So then Oak first asks Pikachu what happened to Red, but then puts Pika into a Pokeball and on a machine to recover. They have to assume that Red was defeated by whoever had sent the challenge, because Pikachu came back all beat up. But it leaves questions unanswered, like who the challenger was, and how come Pikachu came back in such a state without Red. Then the lab door opens, and in walks the mysterious stranger that had drawn a picture of Pikachu. The stranger seems very excited to find Pika there, and he exclaims that he knew Pika would be going back there. So apparently, he knew that Pikachu was headed to Professor Oak's, or was pretty sure of it, and went looking around.
Yep.
So how does this person know Red's Pikachu? We don't know. But he hugs Pika, and Pika seems pleased to see him too. So obviously not the enemy, right?
Yeah.
And also, while in this character's arms, Pika goes from all beat up looking to looking completely refreshed.
When he's all beat up, he looks like a paper mache that was...
What?
He does!
He looks like paper mache that was cut.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, I can see it.
I disagree.
And Oak wants to know what the stranger is all about and why he's leaving with Pikachu. Because, yeah, the stranger decides to just leave with Pikachu. And he wants to know the stranger's name. But the stranger says he can't give up his name. And he can't explain how he knows Red is missing. But that he plans to rescue Red wherever he is, along with Pika. So, we don't know much about him. But apparently he knows Pika. And he and Pika are planning to go together to rescue Red.
And he seems like a good guy.
Yeah. So then Oak sends out... So after all that, Oak sends out Spearow, and the stranger battles with Doduo. Oak says to end the battle if he wants to be able to take Pika, which is a weird thing to say the way I worded it, but he does say to end the battle if he wants to go with Pika. They get locked into a whirlwind standoff, and then Doduo runs around making Spearow dizzy and wins. Oak says that's not how a battle is supposed to work, but the stranger reminds Oak that he just said to end it. Not to beat him, not to knock any Pokemon out, but to end the battle. So, it was finished without Doduo actually doing any battling. Oak thinks the kid is rude, but Pika seems to trust him, and so he decides to trust Pika's judgment. He even gives the kid a Pokedex. A real one, not just the notebook that this stranger uses. Then the stranger and Pika run off to rescue Red, and Oak realizes that Pika might have just gotten well when the kid touched him. So it just clicks into Oak's head that he's like, wait a second, Pika looks a lot better. And that happened when he was hugging him, wasn't it? What's that all about?
Wait, Oak thought he was rude and he still gave him a Pokedex?
Yeah.
That's fun.
Alright. Then we have chapter 43. Seadra.
What?
Sandra never...
Yeah, Seadra. Do you know what Seadra is?
No!
The evolution of Horsea, which is like a seahorse Pokemon.
I forgot that horsey ball.
Yep, it does. So anyway,
Cool
the
art.
stranger.
Cool art.
Oh, it is cool art where this stranger is just sitting on the edge fishing, and there's a Magikarp floating by, and Pika's just watching. That's a really pretty picture. Oh, is there something else in there?
You can see the Pokeball.
Oh, the Pokédoll at the end of the fishing line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so the stranger's fishing in Viridian Forest, and Pika goes off to wander. Stranger catches a Sea King and throws a Pokeball. But it breaks free, and Stranger realizes that it was because they didn't battle, most likely. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the forest, we see someone else wandering around. It's Bill!
Yay, Billy!
He runs into a Weezing and Sandslash, which is unusual for Viridian Forest, and he figured it would have odd Pokemon ever since Team Rocket used the forest for their experiments. I do like... So in the first...
You like that they use the forest?
No. I like that there's an explanation. Because in the first... And they mentioned this even in Volume 3 with... Giovanni explains it all. That they've been testing stuff there with Pokemon. But because And that's because, remember, he saves a little girl from all the evil Pokemon coming to attack Red does? Yeah. So, why were they doing that? And why were certain Pokemon there, like Dratini? They don't usually exist in Viridian Forest. And way back in the first issue, there's like a Kangaskhan out in that forest, too, which didn't make any sense to me. And I'm like, I really wish they wouldn't do that, where they throw in Pokemon that don't belong in the different areas. I wish they'd followed the game more. But then they had an explanation that Team Rocket was messing things up. Bill runs into the Weezing and Sandslash, which is unusual, but that's because of Team Rocket's experimentations. Then a Pikachu shows up, and Bill tries to follow it and falls into the water, and he gets dragged down by his pack. Pika rushes back to the stranger and tries to communicate the problem. Then the stranger reaches a hand out towards Pika's head and closes his eyes, and there's a moment, and then he says, "All right, let's go," as if he understood what Pika wanted him to. So, another interesting thing. First, Pika gets healed in his arms, and now, is he reading his thoughts? So then the stranger uses a rope to try to rescue Bill, who is floundering, and then a whirlpool starts up as a wild Seadra appears. Pikachu can't reach the Seadra with his Thunder Wave, but then he runs across the rope and zaps Seadra. But then the rope snaps, and the current Seadra is carrying Bill away. Then the stranger rushes back for his fishing rod, hurries back, and uses the Pokeball at the end of the rod to capture Seadra. After all, Pika did battle it, so it weakened the Seadra, so he was able to capture it. That stops the current and seems to make the water super shallow too, as Bill is just sitting in it. Then the stranger heals Seadra, like he healed Pika. And then we cut to Misty freaking out that Oak has trusted a stranger with Pika and a Pokedex. But Oak has other things in the works, and he sends Pidgeotto off. I think it's Pidgeotto. Maybe it's Pidgeot. I don't know. One of the evolutions of Pidgey. Off with a letter, it looks like.
Wait, the stranger's probably just using potions to heal the Pokemon, right?
Potions you just see. They're usually the spray bottle things or whatever.
Nice.
And we never see those that he uses. So if he's doing it very sneakily for some reason.
Bum.
And do you have a potion that makes it so you can understand Pika?
He's just good at understanding things like I am.
Oh, okay. And then we go on to chapter 44. Do Wrong Dugong. So, we find Lorelei of the Elite Four watching Yellow and Bill. And she seems to specifically recognize Red's Pikachu, and she's determined to get that Pikachu. Meanwhile, Yellow takes a nap, and Bill starts piecing some things together. He's pretty sure the Pikachu is Pika, especially after getting zapped. He must remember being zapped by that particular Pika before. And then he realizes that the Seadra is all healed as if it had been to a Pokemon Center. Then Lorelei interrupts his thoughts and asks kindly for the Pikachu and throws out her Dugong to attack. Lorelei wants to keep the Elite Four reputation intact, which means defeating all trainers and not letting a single Pokemon escape. So that's why she's chasing down Pika.
Ooh, that's creepy.
And here she gives her intro of being Lorelei of the Elite Four and reveals that her specialty is ice, just like in the games.
Ice is not nice. Well, for me, I like ice, but...
So what we're saying is Ruby is not nice?
Sure.
Pika seemed very mad.
Yeah, because Pika knows something, probably. So then, Dugong is blasting ice all over the place, but Dodua pecks out a chunk of it and tosses it at Lorelei, allowing Yellow and Bill to hide in a cave. Yellow helps Pika heal again, since he got hurt a bit when Lorelei initiated her attack.
How many potions is he carrying?
A lot of noise has the boys worried, and we get a shot of Agatha watching everything on a laptop, and then something starts drilling through the cave. We move on to chapter 45. Cloistered. It is a cloister that's drilling through the cave. Locked in, Yellow sends Pikachu out in a Pokeball using the fishing rod, because there was a hole big enough for a Pokeball to fit through. And that's it. Then, They want to figure out what the missiles are that are drilling into the cave walls. So then Yellow pulls Pika back in, and he gets the images from Pika's mind, just like he understood about Bill's problem, to learn that the spike cannon from Cloyster is being powered by Dugong's ice beam. So they're combining their moves.
So they just have to hurt one, and then they hurt both.
So then Yellow throws out another Pokeball, causing Lorelei to think they're trying the same Pika spying trick because she caught on to it. But when she sends her Pokemon to attack the ball, Yellow and Bill ride out from the rubble on Doduo's back. Pika uses Thundershock to help them get through. Lorelei wants to know how Yellow knew what to expect and demands to know Yellow's name. So then Yellow finally gives us a name. Amarillo del Bosque Verde.
I'm just gonna call him Yellow.
Yes. Then we cut to Jigglypuff, flying up and holding a dish to receive a signal, and inside where the signal is being delivered, in the shadows, is Green, listening in on the conversation between Yellow and Lorelei.
We see Green here?
Yes, we do. That's Green's Jigglypuff.
Oh!
You kept talking so fast, I'm like, where are we in that book? What did I keep?
Good. Yeah, that's Green. That idiot. My instructions were to not give your name. So now we know why Yellow didn't give Oak the name, but then Yellow made a mistake just now. So Green apparently knows Yellow.
I didn't realize we knew this.
Yeah. So Green knows who Yellow is. Or at least to some extent.
And then Dugong starts making an ice slide so that they can...
Yes. And we also learn that Amarillo del Bosque Verde means yellow of the Viridian Forest.
Wait, where are they?
What?
They're in the Viridian Forest. But we also now learn that yellow must come from the Viridian Forest.
That is so confusing. Even though...
Sorry, you haven't played Red and Blue? You've played a little bit of Let's Go though, right?
Yeah.
Have you beat the first gym in Let's Go?
I think in Let's Go you do.
Okay. So in Yellow and Red and Blue and the Let's Go games, you start in Pallet Town, you go up the route, and you go to Viridian City.
We're gonna have to...
We will. So you're in Viridian City, but then after Viridian City, there's Viridian Forest, which is where you can catch like the Weedles and the Caterpies.
Oh, yeah!
And after Viridian Forest, you go up some more route, and you eventually get to Pewter City, which is where Brock's gym is.
Yeah.
So they're in Viridian Forest there, which is right after Viridian City. All right. So then, Dugong is creating an ice path for them to slide along and catch up, like you were saying. They end up in the water and get
away.
they get away, and a wave comes up that gets frozen by Cloyster, freezing both Yellow. Well, both. It freezes Yellow's, Bill's, Doduo's, and Pikachu's feet into the ice at the top of the frozen wave.
Oh dear.
Lorelei tortures them with Supersonic from Cloyster, and then walks up the wave to the trapped group. Yellow lowers the Pokeball from his fishing rod down, and it smacks the underside of the wave cliff. While Lorelei villain monologues, you know what a monologue is?
No.
It's a big long speech, not dialogue, but it's a big speech that just one person says, and villains in movies and stuff do it all the time. Where they're always telling them all their plans or why they're doing what they're doing, giving the heroes time to do something.
And then the heroes...
Exactly. It's the downfall of many a villains. It's kind of a cliche, but it's fun.
I wish they would have something different for all.
No, well, some things do things different, but it's very common for the villains to do this because they have a lot of ego usually. They're very proud about what they're doing.
I mean, that's okay, and it's kind of cool, but still, I wish it would be...
Well, and that's why I like certain things. Like, for example, a lot of things that the creator of Firefly, he would usually interrupt those things all the time.
Okay.
Because actually the guy that created Firefly directed the first Avengers movie. Mm-hmm. And you remember Loki starts to give a big old speech to Hulk about how Hulk is an idiot and he's great, but he doesn't get very far because Hulk grabs his legs and starts smacking him into the floor all over the place. That's a very common tactic of that director. He loves to do that kind of stuff.
I love it.
Or like even in the first episode of Firefly, remember there's that guy who has them at gunpoint?
Yeah.
And so he starts to give to say some stuff like a standoff, but Mal just walks in and shoots him right in the face and he goes down, remember? It's like, whoop, that was quick and dealt with. and then they just unceremoniously toss his body off the ship.
So he gives them the proud aspect, but
then interrupts it. Yeah, he gives us heroes that just go right on. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, so yeah, they're stuck there. The ball goes down, And so then while Lorelai does her villain monologue and tries to figure out Yellow's secrets, something else is happening, and eventually scratching noises can be heard and they distract her. The ice starts to crack, and then the part that had held Yellow and people drops off away from Lorelai, and we find that Rattata had been using Hyperfang on the ice, and then it crawls on top of the ice as it falls to go back with Yellow and everything. So apparently Rattata was in the Pokeball that was lowered. And now we know Yellow has a Rattata.
Ready.
So then they land in the water, and they start to get away again. Lorelai gears up to throw out a Pokeball, but then an ink splot hits right near her feet and starts to melt the ice a little. We see in the shadows of the trees that Green is holding a horsey up and aimed toward Lorelai. So Green was hiding in the trees and shooting ink blots from horsey.
Why isn't Green doing that?
Because Green is teamed up with Yellow for some reason.
But why isn't Green in Yellow's place?
The green and yellow colors do not go together.
You are going to upset many a Packer fan.
I don't care about Packers.
Do you even know who the Packers are?
Yes!
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know.
Alright, who are the Packers?
They're a football team.
Good job. For what state?
I forgot which state.
Wisconsin.
One time I got this second-hand sweatshirt of Packers.
My grandma's a huge Packer fan. Alright, so the ink spot. So Lorelai notices the silhouette of Green and she quickly darts away. Green does. The heroes paddle away and the characters make their introductions. And we learn that Rattata is Ratty.
Oh, Ratty, not
yes,
Ratty.
not Ratty like you did.
Sorry.
Meanwhile, Lorelai communicates with Agatha using a communicator that kind of looks like a compact, like, like with the mirror and stuff like women usually have. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
With the powdery thing?
Yeah, with the powder and stuff and a mirror.
I just have a little mirror.
Yeah, so she opens up a little compact, and apparently it's the mirror part is a screen. Anyway, it looks like she says that as Yellow's powers grow, he will be able to completely read Pikachu's thoughts and learn what happened to Red during the Red and Bruno fight, and that cannot be allowed. So now Pika and Yellow are her targets. But we also learned that Yellow definitely has powers.
Alright, so he wasn't using potion.
Alright, chapter 46, Whacked by Marowak. Now this is our last chapter for the manga coverage today. Alright, so Erica, the Celadon City gym leader, the grass,
Yep.
is also a teacher at the Celadon University, because apparently they have a university. She is in contact with Misty and learning that there is no new info on Red. Pika wakes up from a nightmare of Red and his Pokemon all laying around in defeat. Pika is freaking out, and Yellow tries to calm him down and assure him that Yellow also wants to find Red. So Pika's getting a lot more anxious that they haven't found Red yet.
Yeah. I mean, he's his trainer.
And Pikachu zaps Yellow.
Yeah, that's right. Pika does zap Yellow, because he's flipping out. Then Erica, Victory Bell, Tangela, Vileplume, and other Celadon City people show up and look aggressive, like they're out for a fight or something. She seems to think Pika is not impressed with Yellow, and that Pika is only with Yellow because Yellow comes from Viridian Forest, just like Pika does. Because, where do you catch Pikachu in Red and Blue, Ruby?
We got Pikachus. It wasn't in a forest, I don't think.
It was. We didn't get him the first time around, and then when I was playing on my own to use the item finder everywhere, I went back through Viridian Forest and ran into a Pikachu, and I'm like, oh, I forgot. They show up here rarely, so we had to go hunting around Viridian Forest for your game as well to get a Pikachu.
Oh, yeah.
Like that one place we can only catch Eevees.
So, right. In Sword and Shield, yeah. Because in... Yeah, Viridian Forest, I think, is the only place you can get a Pikachu in that game. You see Caterpies, Metapods, or Weedles and Kakunas or whatever, but there's also Pikachus.
That's kind of cool.
So yeah, so they're following the lore of the game here, where Pika's from Viridian Forest as well. So the scent of the Viridian Forest is probably all that brought Pika and Yellow together, is what Erica seems to think. And so then she doubts that connection won't be good enough and won't be any use when things get dangerous. Then Red suddenly shows up on the outskirts, and so Pika and Yellow rush off as Erica protests. They are very excited to go see Red. Pika jumps into Red's arms, Yellow is excited, and Erica goes in to greet him, also happy to see Red. Then Red hits Erica in the gut and takes her out. Everyone is shocked. Pika tries to shock this clearly evil Red, but it doesn't work, and then Red reveals himself to be a Super Nerd.
Ugh, super nerd.
I don't like Super Nerd.
There's a trainers in the Pokemon games called Super Nerds. So he's just based off one of those.
This guy is very annoying.
Yeah, he's not cool. That he doesn't like the term Super Nerd. He seems to be annoyed that the world has given him that title.
Don't be a super nerd then.
Anyway, he also had a bodysuit that he was wearing that helped him look like Red or whatever that blocks electric attacks and gives off a scent that was chemically engineered to smell just like Red. So Pika was totally tricked. The rest of Celadon City wants to attack, but he has Erica's head under his foot. So then he uses a Marowak to boomerang, or with his little bone thing, his bone ring, everyone away. But Yellow remains and confronts the evil Super Nerd. Then we cut to Pidgeotto or Pidgeot or whatever it was, making its delivery of Oak's note to Blue, who was off in some mountains and dressed in a cloak for travel. And he looks really cool with this cloak. Blue has a very cool look to him right now. The letter mentions that Blue was training, but now Oak really needs him to help with some stuff, and is sorry to interrupt that training. And that is where we leave off in our Pokemon adventures, or our manga Pokemon adventures. Good stuff, huh? I really like in the comic, actually. Part of me likes the first three better because it kind of follows the routes and stuff, but I do really like Yellow as a character a lot, so...
Yeah.
And the mystery, there's a lot more mystery here because we don't really know what's going on with the Elite Four and all that stuff.
It's true.
Alright, then we move on to something a little goofier, the anime. We watched 4 episodes. The first one was Palette Party Panic, and this is after Ash's journey through the Pokemon League, which was a great arc of stuff, right? And so this is all weird to me. There's a lot of weird stuff with the anime because they also didn't show certain episodes in America because they got banned. There's even one episode that right after airing it caused a lot of problems, so it got banned in all countries, including Japan, and never to be aired again because it caused seizures in people because of a lot of flashing lights. But with the way they break them up, at least on like Pokemon TV and on like Netflix and stuff, is the first season, which is called the Indigo League, which should go through the whole tournament then, cuts off with the episode with Butch and Cassidy, Team Rocket people, and their little scheme. So then we pick up again, and that's when we start, well, we have a couple weird episodes, like the Princess contest and everything, but then we go to the Fire Gym, and eventually go to the Viridian City Gym, and then do the whole tournament. And this is all in the second season, which is called the Orange Islands, but there's not been any islands, well, there's been some islands, but not Orange Islands, and nothing to do with it. And then once we finish all of that, and the tournament is over, and they had their closing ceremonies, then we pick up back in Pallet Town. So this could be considered, you could consider this the beginning of a new season, because there's a new mission introduced here and a new destination. But you could also just consider this an epilogue of Season 1, so it could still belong to Season 1. Wherever you want, because they already broke the seasons up really bizarrely as it is. And it still has the same theme song. But that's going to change soon. So anyway, Ash and company return to Pallet Town for a picnic party to celebrate their making it to the league and finishing it and all that stuff. They all decide to take out their Pokemon to join in on the picnic.
Except for Charizard.
And Ash almost brings out Charizard, but Brock and Misty are like, wait! Because Charizard still does not listen to Ash. Meanwhile, Team Rocket is also there because they have their own little food booth for the picnic area, and they have their own little scheme where they're going to put really hot sauces on all the foods that's going to just cause them to be distracted by their mouths burning so they can finally get that Pikachu. So then they do. It all works. They all burn their mouths, and like Misty uses her water Pokemon to help out like Brock and stuff, but then Ash is like, what are you guys complaining about? And then he burns his mouth, and Team Rocket sneaks off.
Well, not necessarily. Then they threw the hot food at them.
Well, that's true.
And they get some in their mouths.
But anyway, Team Rocket does get the Pikachu, and their whole little food cart turns into the hot air balloon, which was a really cool scene where like the wheels went shooting out and changing and all. I liked it.
Yeah.
And then, while they're flying away, well, they make sure to leave Pikachu dangling from a rope so Pikachu can't electrify them up in the thing. And Team Rocket starts throwing bombs all over the picnic. And then once again, Ash uses Pidgeotto to go pop the balloon, because this has happened multiple times before. And so Pidgeotto flies up there, pops the balloon, yay! Ooh, this time Team Rocket was prepared for it and hits the emergency button, which releases the pop balloon and shoots up a second one, which is Meowth's head with the gold emblem with the number 2 on it.
So funny.
So that didn't work out. So then he's of course gonna try to have Pidgeotto do it again, but Arbok comes out and uses Poison Sting on Pidgeotto, causing Pidgeotto to fall and almost crash into the ground. Of course, Ash catches him.
Is Arbok a snake?
He's the snake Pokemon, yes. The evolution of Ekans.
Yeah, I got it right.
Good job. So, with that happening, Ash is like, well, I think it's time for Charizard action. And of course, everybody's like, but he sends out Charizard, so Charizard can help out. And Charizard sees a table full of food.
So he's walking
And he's gonna go get that food. But what happens to the food?
They drop bombs on it. It explodes. He gets really mad.
Yes, Team Rocket threw bombs again and blew up the food right before Charizard could get his food.
Yeah, he's like,
And so he's
"What?"
pissed.
And so Ash is like, you're finally gonna
Listening to me because he's going after Team Rocket.
He said that before, hasn't he?
Yep.
And so the same thing happens, right?
Ash is not the smartest child.
Sounds like someone else I know.
He's really good at being friends with this Pokemon, though.
Yeah.
So anyway, Charizard, being upset, decides to go after Team Rocket, and Jessie's like, Charizard? Like, she's like, oh, this is not good. And, yeah, so Charizard breathes a fireball. Oh, let's see. So yeah, then Charizard basically just takes them out, and they blast off. Again.
Team Rocket's blasting
Yeah, and
off.
Charizard burns Ash.
I think they say
because
blast away again this time instead of blasting off again, because they like to change it up every once in a while. But yes, pretty much.
And Charizard burns Ash like usual.
Yeah, well, Ash is like, hey, you listen to me! And so then Charizard looks over and shoots a fireball right at him, and Ash is Char. But he did bring Pikachu back down before that. Or, like, he let Pikachu right on him,
Yeah.
which was cool. So he still does some good things.
Fire
But
Pikachu.
then he also flew around the picnic area, causing gusts of wind to knock everything
I-
all over the place.
I think he actually just stood in the middle. Doing
No, I'm
this
pretty
with
sure
his
it
hand.
showed him swooping back and forth or something.
No, he was standing in the middle.
Oh, was he? Oh, maybe I was wrong. Anyway, yeah,
And
because
then-
he just totally just well, and then Ash's mom is like something positive-ish about it, like, oh, this is exciting or something.
No, Charizard really is the star.
Oh, yeah. He's the life of the party or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Well, he's burning everything.
So anyway, then we find out that Team Rocket got stuck in a tree full of Pidgeotos and Pidgeys.
Yep.
And they try to stick their head out, I think. Or did they do that? Maybe it's later that we find out why they're stuck in there with them.
Later, we find out why they're stuck.
Later?
Later.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
Ash asks.
Okay. So then, while patching up Pidgeotto at Oak's lab, Oak asks the group to run an errand for him. So this is where we get our new mission for the Orange Islands.
First, Ash talks to Pidgeot like he says sorry because...
Pidgeotto?
Pidgeotto, because he's like, I should have expected Poison Sting or whatever.
Oh, he said that when he caught him. That was a while ago. Before he sent out Charizard, I think. But yes.
Well, it was a nice touching moment.
You're not wrong. I'm glad you brought it up.
Touching.
He has many touching moments with his Pokemon. Anyway, so then, yeah, Oak patches them, but he also asks them to run an errand for him in the Orange Archipelago. Professor Ivy, who's a Pokemon professor there, has found a mysterious Pokeball that somehow cannot be sent through the normal means, like transported or whatever.
Which
Okay.
is very.
Yes, so they're like, okay, so they'll go fetch it for him. And he says he would send out Gary, but Gary is off on his own Pokemon journey for training. So they have to go through the woods, just like the first woods that Ash ever went through in the first episode. So they must be the same trees, the same woods that he's going through. And while they're doing that, and it's also the same woods that Team Rocket must have landed in, and they are then attacked by Fearow and a gang of Spearow. And Ash is like, why is this Fearow... Well, first he uses the Pokedex to figure out what it is. He's like, why is this Fearow, like, going after me? Like, he has some kind of vendetta. And then he's like, oh,
He
wait
does.
a second. It's, evolved of Spearow. It's probably the Spearow I hit in the head with a rock when I was trying to catch a Pidgey. Because he thought it was a Pidgey when he threw the rock at it.
Wait, how would he catch a pigeon?
Okay, so in the first episode, he has Pikachu. And Pikachu does not want to be with him, remember? He's dragging him on that rope or leash or whatever with his rubber gloves so he doesn't get electrified. Because he'd already been electrified twice by that point, I think.
They're his laundry gloves.
So then he's dragging Pikachu, and then when he finds the Pidgey, he's like, alright, Pikachu, go battle for me. And Pikachu's like, nope.
Does Pikachu like Charizard? Because if he doesn't, just be like, well, this is how you were.
And so, it's like, yeah, I think Pikachu's fine with Charizard, I don't know. But, So then Ash is like, well, I need to catch more Pokemon, and Pikachu had listened to me, so he was just going to use his own methods by throwing a rock, which is actually a way to catch some Pokemon in a part of the Pokemon game in the Safari Zone. But anyway, so he throws a rock, thinking he sees another Pidgey because the other Pidgey flew off or something. But we only see like the silhouette, and then it hits him, and it turns around with this lump on his head, and it's a Spearow. And that's what leads to all those Spearow chasing Ash and Pikachu. And then they end up at the waterfall, fall down. They find Misty, who fishes them out. And then Ash borrows, quote-unquote, Misty's bike with Pikachu because Pikachu's hurt. And they ride off to go to the next city. And then they fall off the little cliff thing. And then all the Spearow come. And then Ash gets up to defend Pikachu from all the Spearow, even though it would probably kill Ash. And then, of course, Pikachu that warms Pikachu up to Ash a little bit. He gets up there and zaps everything.
Yeah.
So, one of those Spearow, probably the one that got hit in the head, is kind of angry and has now evolved into a Fearow, who's big and mean.
Yeah.
So, and then, how did Ash end up in the tree? I can't remember.
I don't remember. Did he run up there? Did the Fearow pick him up? I feel like the Fearow picked him up, him and Pikachu.
Oh, and then he fought free and fell.
Yeah.
Oh, no, he had Pikachu zap them.
And then...
Because he got zapped too, and then they fell.
Yep.
That's what happened.
Into
Yes.
the exact same tree
As Team Rocket. Yeah. Meanwhile, Misty and Brock are hiding in some bushes.
And Ash is like, what are you guys doing up here?
And so then they explain that the Spearows and stuff are keeping them there because they would stick their head up and get whacked in the head by Spearows when they would look out there.
Yeah.
And that's why the Pidgey and Pidgeotto aren't leaving either.
What I was thinking is they were going to say is, why do you think you blasted us into this?
Well, he didn't. Charizard did.
And he wasn't even controlling Charizard.
Exactly. So then Ash is like, well, we need to figure out how to deal with all this and get everybody free. And they're like, yeah. And he's like, they're willing to work with him because he's going to come up with a plan, right? And so then he's like, well, first, I think it's most important to get you guys out, which, of course, they're like, yeah, get us out. We're top priority, right? And he's like, just starts jumping on the branch and makes them all fall down because they're the distraction.
Yeah, and
Because then the Spearow and Fearow come down, and Team Rocket runs.
Jeez.
But the Pidgey and Pidgeotto still won't leave. And he's trying to help them, but they won't. So then, he pulls out his Pidgeotto to communicate with them. And Pidgeotto gives this whole big speech that we don't understand, and they're like, alright! And they all fly off.
Yep.
But then Spearow and Fearow come back, right?
Mm.
Let's see.
But then they attack.
So Ash's Pidgeotto... Oh, that's right, because Pidgeotto's leading them. And then they come back, so Pidgeotto goes back to stand in between, or fly in between, Fearow and the rest of the Pidgeottos.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets into a battle and gets knocked down. He's all beat up, and so Ash is like, well, you're going to be okay, trying to help him and stuff. So the second time Pidgeotto falls down and gets hurt.
But Pidgeotto said he wants to fight for Ash no matter what. So.
Yes. And so then Pidgeotto, struggling to get up, but he stands back up, starts to glow, and then he's big ol' Pidgeot.
Big ol'.
Yeah,
Which then Ash climbs on top of with Pikachu, because they can ride Pidgeot, because he's big. And
Yeah.
they fly into the air to battle Fearow, and it's awesome.
Yes, it is.
And then all the Pidgey and Pidgeotto come back and also attack Fearow, because he got weakened after some... and Ash did try to catch the Fearow. He threw a Pokeball at him, but it didn't work, because he wasn't weakened enough. But the rest of the Pidgeotto come and help drive off Fearow, and Fearow flies away, defeated.
Mm.
So, because Fearow still exists and could come back, Ash decides to leave Pidgeot in the forest. He's
He
like,
said he'll come back.
he did say he'll come back, but he's like, Pidgeot, you need to protect these Pidgeys and Pidgeottos in case Fearow comes back. You're a good buddy. I'll come back for you.
Very
And they all leave.
touching.
Very touching. And that's that episode. It was good stuff. So then, if you consider that an epilogue, as it gives us a new mission to the first season, so that's part of the first season, then you could kind of say this is the beginning of the second season as well, because now we're actually on this whole new journey, right? And this episode is called A Scare in the Air. So it's going to take a long time to get to the island, they realize.
Well, they
And
go
they're-
to the store.
Yeah, they're at like a
and
Pokemart.
Ash comes out with snacks. And he's like, this is a lot to last us 2 weeks. And Misty's like, how long is it going to take? And then Brock, I think, goes, about a month.
And
Unless we
Pikachu's-
get by Blimp or something. And then,
Go by Bloom.
yeah.
Yep. And
Then
then they
the
find out there's
guys-
a contest that if you win it, you can get a blimp ride to the very island they want to go to, Valencia Island, I think it is.
Yeah.
And Ash goes up there, and they're like, you're not going to win, Ash. Do you really think so? And he wins the golden ball to get the ride.
In my opinion, it's like, might as well try. Like, what's
Sure.
the point?
Well, they didn't say don't try. They're just like, do you really think you're going to win,
And
though?
then Misty can try, and Brock can
And it's just really funny, because then they're like, well, you can't lose them all, which usually the phrase is, you can't win them all.
Yeah.
But Ash has been kind of on a losing streak. So,
And Pikachu comes out of the store on his shoulder, like...
oh, that's right, he was holding a bag during that whole conversation, trying to hang on tight. That was hilarious. His facial expressions were just making me laugh a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they get this thing. Then we cut to Team Rocket talking to Giovanni on their screen. But now we don't have Giovanni hidden because we've met him a couple times, so we see his face and everything. And of course, he's there with his Persian. And Giovanni's like, so listen up, Team Rocket. Or Jesse and James and Meowth. I need you to take over the Blimp Brigade. And they're like, sweet, promotion! But then after they leave, we hear Giovanni talk about it. He's like, the only thing I've kept up on the blimps, because meaning that they're all run down, is their insurance policy. Meaning if something happens to them, he gets money to repair them or do whatever, you know? So, he's not expecting them to take care of them because he doesn't trust Team Rocket. Theirs is not a promotion. They think it is, but it's not.
Well, at least they think they got something good.
So they're all excited and want to protect the blimps at all costs, which is hilarious because Giovanni's ready for them to be destroyed. Oh, and the background for him in this video, he has like a flag behind him for Team Rocket, but it definitely looks different. It's not like the fancy office he used to have. So I don't know if he's just in some secret bunker headquarters now or what, because the other one got like blown up with when Mewtwo escaped.
Yeah, so he's probably in somewhere new.
Yeah. So I don't know what that's all about, but that's where he is. So then, let's see. So when Ash and them get to the blimp, they see that it is a very rundown blimp, and some workers in the area, and like the airfield, they're like, that thing is dangerous, and it's haunted. And they're like, what? And so then when Team Rocket shows up in their disguises, that of course nobody recognizes them, because they never do, they're like, oh, no, they're from a rival blimp thing. Don't listen to them. It's not haunted. It's fine. And so everybody gets on the blimp, and then while they're getting in there, my favorite character of the Pokemon show shows up. Jigglypuff. And Jigglypuff sees this big lever up some stairs and thinks it's like a stage with a mic stand. And, like, the image changes in Jigglypuff's eyes. And so Jigglypuff, sweet, goes up there and jumps to get the microphone, hits the lever, which apparently releases the blimp. And the rope starts spiraling away because there's a rope attached to it all. And it gets around Jigglypuff's leg, and Jigglypuff goes up with the blimp.
Bye-bye, Jigglypuff.
Well, not bye. Following along.
Well,
My brother was not happy to see Jigglypuff.
I love Jigglypuff so much.
It's awesome.
So then, yeah, on the blimp, the Ash and everybody are led into like a dining hall area and left there, and then the floor breaks because it's all run down, and Ash almost falls to his death, but they save him, and they get mad at Team Rocket. Not that they know it's Team Rocket,
Because they said that was going to be first class.
yeah, first class, and this place is just a dump, and they get served cold soup, and James claims it's an Eskimo recipe.
Then he started talking about the chef, which is Meowth, and Jesse hits him.
Right. And then, but then the airship, the blimp, keeps like teetering side to side and everything's wonky, and they're like, who's flying this thing? So they go to because James, like the Ash, I think, or something says, who's flying this thing? So Jesse and James run off. They're like, that's a good question. Go talk to Meowth who's cooking. Is like, who's flying this? I don't know, I'm cooking. So nobody's flying this? So they all rush to the pilot area to figure out how to fly this. Meowth's going through the manual. They learn about the water in the blimp, that you dump out some.
which is so...
It is cool. And they're trying to get it level, so they're constantly dumping water to finally level it out, which they do.
And Jigglypuff just gets...
Oh, that's right. The first time they open it, Jigglypuff gets dumped on by water.
and keeps
so
happening.
Jigglypuff's not happy. And it does happen multiple times. And later on, when it opens again and it's empty, Jigglypuff's like, but no water comes out. So sweet. So Jigglypuff climbs in through the water hole and is now on the ship. Also, I noticed, so remember, Jigglypuff went upside down with the rope attached to it? But then, later on, after getting dumped on water, like, flipped over into, like, right position, almost like Jigglypuff could fly, and then just kind of, like, sort of climbed, but mostly just kind of flew up almost, like a balloon.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we saw her in midair.
Yeah. I just thought it was interesting, because I don't know if Pokemon, or, like, Jigglypuff can even learn fly in the game. I'm not sure, I've never tried.
Well,
But Jigglypuff does fly in the manga. So I just think it's cool.
I
I
think
think
she
show
should
her
be.
just go...
Yeah.
She can do that in Super Smash Bros.
Yes. Jigglypuff is a fun one in Super Smash.
Goodness, you should have seen Game Week with us playing Super Smash Bros.
Yeah.
Like, half the people kept choosing Jigglypuff, and one person was amazing at working Jigglypuff.
Some people just get really good at certain characters in that game.
It was a fun game.
Putting people to sleep?
Yes! And then the most annoying part, a lot of the people also hated Jigglypuff, and because they kept trying to kill her. Poof, poof, poof.
I had a friend when the first Smash Brothers existed.
Okay.
It came out. And we would play on occasion. I didn't really... I wasn't as into the game at the time, mostly because everybody just was so much better than me that it wasn't really fun for me to play because I was just getting crushed all the time and didn't get to play.
Same.
So, and so then, but this one person would play Pikachu all the time. And Pikachu could just zip all over the place on the screen. And they were really good with Pikachu. And we would all get so annoyed. We're like, just get rid of that stupid rat! Because that Pikachu, I'm sure it's still this way, can get underneath the thing and call down a thunderbolt on the above platform, right? Because the thunder comes from the sky, so it doesn't matter if you're usually you can't hit that person as easily, but just or the little zap thing that goes around on the platform. That's also annoying. They were really good with Pikachu, and I hated it. I didn't hate it as much because I didn't play as much, but other people definitely hated it. Alright, so Togepi goes missing. So Misty's Togepi that she's been carrying around. And Togepi is just another interesting aspect to this whole thing. I know we talked about it before, but we're still in the Kanto region, although we're now leaving to the Orange Islands, which don't even exist in the games. But we're in the Kanto region, and Togepi doesn't exist in Kanto. Togepi's from Johto. And I don't even think the games are out yet. I don't think Gold and Silver were out when this anime was out, this episode. So anyway, we had Togepi early on in this show, definitely before the game came out, and I think this is still before the game came out. I could be wrong on that, but I don't remember the dates. But it's just interesting that we got introduced to this, because that also means Ho-Oh, the legendary bird thing from Johto, we see in the first or second episode.
Wait, I thought that was Moltres.
It's not Moltres, it's Ho-Oh. A legendary bird from the second games. And that was in the first or second episode of the anime, which means the game didn't exist yet. They were working on it, and I think they had magazines or something with some of the Pokemon that they were developing and were going to come. So some of that knowledge was out there, but it wasn't actually a thing yet. So it's just really interesting to me. So they're going to the storm, Togepi's missing, Jigglypuff's on the ship, and Jigglypuff finds the dining room again, where everybody else had been, and sees a candlestick on top of the table, and once again sees a stage and a microphone. So Jigglypuff tries to get up onto the table, and this is hilarious. After just flying up a rope and going inside this thing, Jigglypuff misses the table, and hits just the tablecloth and gets covered in this white tablecloth, making it look like a ghost on this haunted airship.
Because the airship is haunted.
So then while people are looking for Togepi, and Team Rocket's running around too, probably looking for Pikachu, I don't even remember. Both people have encountered the ghost at some point and freak out, both groups.
Yeah, because Togepi or
Jigglypuff is covered in.
Jigglypuff keeps hopping up behind Jessie.
Yes.
And Mouth's ghost!
Yep. And then the storm is tearing apart the airship.
Because they entered a stormy cloud.
Yeah, because they found out they were out of water, so they couldn't lift up anymore or down. Because they emptied it all. And the cloth part of the airship starts ripping up, and that's how we find Togepi up on the rafter kind of things. The frame. Yeah. And so Ash helps Misty when she's up there to try to balance using Bulbasaur to hold it. But while they're distracted with that, Meowth is like, sweet, we'll go snatch Pikachu. Yeah. But then, while all that's going on, something happened to Meowth when he was trying to get over there.
Oh, he fell. Remember, he was like, I'm super good as a cat.
Yeah.
And then the light shined in his eye.
Oh, right. The light shined in his eye.
And then he's holding on by one hand and, right above a hole that will bye-bye.
Yes. And then, before Misty can reach Togepi, Jigglypuff shows up. Right on the rafter there, right between them. And she's like, please don't sing right now.
Yeah.
But then... I'm guessing it was from another lightning thing or something, but Team Rocket gets thrown off the ship and with some of the cloth because they turn it into a parachute.
But when did that happen? Why? Well, maybe they tried to jump to save Mouth and they just ripped through the.
It could be, but
and it became a parachute, and so
then Jigglypuff
went
lands on the parachute while they're holding onto it, floating down to the water, but then Jigglypuff starts to sing, causing Team Rocket to fall asleep, and
Her song is
Team
very
Rocket
nice.
is drifting off again, I think, happens here, and then they fall to the water. Which, at the height they were, would probably still kill them, but that's fine.
Well, Team Rocket.
Well, nobody dies in the anime, really.
Really?
I think so. It's a goofy kids cartoon.
Well, you said no one dies. Really?
I haven't seen a lot of it, actually, so I can't tell you, but...
Someone's gonna die.
Let's see. And then the rest of the group have to try to land the ship because they're getting close to Valencia, but they don't have no way to really land it, so they have to use the weight to land it. So Brock and everybody lifts up their Pokemon, but Onix is way too heavy. So he's like, Onix, get back. And so then he's trying to pilot it while Ash is running back and forth with all the Pokemon, because Misty's just like the go-between to tell Ash where to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just standing there.
So she just gets to yell. Lazy Misty. No, just kidding. And then they crash land on the island, all safe, fish, and sound. And the airship is demolished.
Is that the second episode?
That was our second episode. We have 2 more to go. So then, episode 29, Pokeball Peril. So they're on the island, looking for Professor Ivy's lab and find the Pokemon Center, because they're like, well, that should be a good way to figure out where we need to go. It looks a little different, being an island hut type of building than the normal Pokécenters, right?
Yeah.
But it's because it's on these islands. And they wonder if there's a Joy there, which there is. And
Oh.
this Joy is, I don't remember what the list of
So she
relations
was
are.
like the second cousin of the brother of the guy who married the Joy in some other city.
Yeah, she's the second cousin of a brother-in-law of a Joy and Saffron or something like that. Which,
So she's a sister.
not even.
It said she was some.
She didn't just say she was a sister-in-law. She had a...
Or maybe she's the sister-in-law of a brother of somebody in Saffron. Either way, she is not blood-related to the Joy in Saffron City.
And yet she still.
And yet they look identical. And they're both Joy.
No, they don't look identical
Well,
according to
almost.
Brock.
Well, right. Brock always sees differences.
Well, maybe she dyed her.
Sure. It's just funny how all the Joys look alike, and at first they're like, well, yeah, I'm just the sister or the cousin or the second cousin, but now we're getting to the point where they're not even blood related, and it makes no sense. I think we already had this with an Officer Jenny at some point, too. Anyway, so they do find Professor Ivy, and she's an attractive woman. She's not just an old guy like Professor Oak. And so, once again, Brock is in love. All the pretty girls, right?
Well, all the girls except Misty. Pretty much.
Pretty much.
And the only reason he wanted to go on the mission, I'm pretty sure, is because he was thinking of all the pretty girls at the
On the
beach.
islands, yeah. Yep. Anyway, so she shows them the Pokeball, and the Pokeball is gold and silver. Just like the Pokemon games that were coming out or came
And it has
out. Or about.
GNS on it, so it's the GS
And it
ball.
had GS on it, and they call it a GS ball. And I don't know what GS might stand for in the cartoon. Maybe it is gold and silver. I don't know. But gold and silver colors and GNS, gold and silver, just like the games are going to be. So, and then they even show how it can't be transported. They use the energy and it just all crackles off of it. And they say that they did all kinds of things to try to open it with like saw blades and all that stuff.
And a laser.
Yeah, all it. Nothing worked. Because she has like 3 like weird assistants too.
Yeah.
They're sisters.
The 3 assistants are sisters to each other or her sister.
They're all sisters.
Also, they're all related to Professor Ivy too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I missed it. I don't know.
I think so. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think so.
But then, what was super interesting to me is they go to feed Pokemon on the island, and all the Pokemon look different. Like, the Vileplumes have different features on them, Raticate was different colored, the Weepinbell was definitely a different color,
Mm-hmm.
Butterfree had some different patterns on it, and so this was super interesting to me, because they're on tropical islands, which don't exist these islands don't exist in the games, but we had regional variants to the Pokemon, which exist in the games now, right? We have a Galarian Ponyta, right? We have a Alolan Executor. But Alola was the first region to have regional variants, which is the 7th generation of games. So this is way before the Alola games. And what is Alola? A bunch of tropical islands, like Hawaii. And the Orange Islands are very similar. So we have islands in the games eventually, but the cartoon did it way before, and it's super interesting to me that they did it. And maybe that's why they did islands and having variants there, because they remember doing that in the cartoon. I don't know, but it's just super weird to me that they did that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, those games are Sun and Moon, by the way. Sorry. that would make sense.
Not eating because of...
Yes, the Butterfree wasn't eating because it needed something else, and of course Brock was able to figure out because he learned.
Ate a piece of it.
Yeah.
And then he crunched up berries and sprinkled that on, and Butterfree's like, huh?
Yeah, because it wanted something sweet. Meanwhile, Team Rocket's like, hey, remember, Ash and company, they had a round trip ticket, so let's fix up this airship so we can get them on the way back.
Yeah, because they're also super nervous about the airship being all broken.
Yep. So they get to work on that, and back to Ash and them. They're like, hey, let's have dinner. So they go to Professor Ivy's place, which is a disaster. Because they're like, yeah, we've been so busy that we don't clean, so we just call it our little dump. But Brock is super excited because he used to do this all the time with his siblings. He would take care of them, cook for them, clean. And so he puts on an apron and cleans and cooks all at once.
He's just staring like dishes to clean, food to make.
Yes. Yeah, he was very excited. So he takes care of all that, and they get to eat, and then the next... Oh, there's a whole incident at night, too, with the Violet Plume doing its thing and knocks Ivy out.
The Violet Plume are nocturnal. They're putting out their pollen to protect themselves while the Pokemon are up during the day. And then the Raticate tries to get in there, which is super dangerous for it. So Professor Ivy, which is also very dangerous to be in the Violet Plume's pollen, rushes in there, and so they have to be taken to the hospital. And Nurse Joy's like, you should have known not to go in there.
This doesn't really do much for the episode. It's not even that important. But it happened. It was interesting. It just showed that Ivy definitely cared for the Pokemon, which was cool. So then the next morning, they're getting ready to leave, and they find out that Brock isn't leaving. He's still working on stuff, and he says that they need him more than Ash and Misty do. And so he's going to stay, and now we lose Brock.
Which is a little sad.
He's been with us forever. He was the first companion to join Ash, even. And now... Was it? No, Misty was.
Well, she wasn't a companion.
Sorry, Misty was first.
She wasn't a companion. She was
Nonetheless,
just followed.
Brock is gone.
And then I don't remember when this happened, but they were like, "Why was I following?" Ash was like, nothing.
Oh yeah, that happened in the Charizard episodes with the volcano gem.
Well, fine.
Yes, no, I agree.
And then she's like, "You owe me for a bike."
So then they say their goodbye. They have the GS ball that they're going to bring to Oak, and they are greeted by a shiny, new-looking airship. The airship looks completely different, and Team Rocket has the same costumes on, except now they've added mustaches.
Bum, bum, bum.
So they couldn't possibly be the same people as before. But the airship is in much better condition this time. It's a much fancier airship. It doesn't break apart like the other one.
It's a much metaler.
Yes, it is.
Not the way it sounded, but just metal.
The thing is that Jessie is wearing a mustache when all her hair is sticking out.
Oh yeah, that's just it. Her hair is always sticking out, almost always, and I still never know it's her.
Which is so pretty.
It's just funny. It's a running gag, and I like it. Anyway, so then they get on the airship, and it starts to take off, and Jigglypuff is running to catch on and gets blown away. So we don't think Jigglypuff made it, but then we cut and we see that Jigglypuff's hanging onto the tail fin.
Oh yeah, again, my brother was like, "Yes, she didn't make it." What?
Yep. So then Ash and Misty are seated at a table or whatever, and then a cage is dropped on them. And Team Rocket reveals themselves, and then they keep making comments about Ash and Misty being a couple, which annoys them. They're like, no, we're not a couple, stop saying that.
And they're like, someone's blushing.
Yep.
And there's only 2 seats, but then they ask, where's Brock? They
They
weren't even ready for Brock.
Yeah,
well,
it
there was actually
doesn't
2
actually
seats.
make sense.
There was 2 seats with a tiny seat.
Right.
Yeah, but like, if they're asking where Brock is, then why didn't they have a seat for Brock?
Right.
It's, yeah, dumb.
There's a logical inconsistency there. Anyway, then Jigglypuff shows up in the cage, and Team Rocket freaks out. They're like, no, not Jigglypuff! And they're panicking and want to get free, and they
Like,
start...
get the parachutes.
Yeah, they start getting the parachutes on when Jigglypuff's singing, and they don't even quite get them all latched. And the door opens, and they all fly out, and Jigglypuff goes with them.
Yep.
As the rest of them are stuck in a cage sleeping.
Yeah.
And once again, Jigglypuff rides on top of the parachute. And yes, Misty and Ash are asleep in a cage and with no pilot on the airship, and what is going to happen? And it ends in a cliffhanger.
Dun, dun,
And this makes me think that maybe this is where the break actually belongs for the 2 seasons, because we've kind of started the journey, but now we actually have a cliffhanger ending, and with what happens in the new episode, definitely feels like a premiere for a new season.
Wait, we have another episode after this?
Yes.
Oh, again, even when we were watching them there, I thought that it was the last one.
Yeah, you didn't watch this one, I don't think, Rosella, because you had to go help. Well, you wanted to go help your mom with some bacon.
Cake.
Yeah. Then we have The Lost Lapras, episode 30.
I'm excited.
And the first thing we get hit in the face with is an entirely different opening sequence and a different song.
I think I saw the difference.
Yep. So the original theme is now out, which is also one of the reasons I feel like this is like a different, like this makes it feel like a different season.
Yeah.
The other thing is that because we also say goodbye to Rock, we actually introduce a new character that becomes a constant character.
Yeah, but they didn't say how they got out of the cage, right? At least I didn't see.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know the airship crashed. That's what I remember. So, like, I don't know if we even see it crash, but they wake up on the island with a crashed airship.
Okay.
So that's probably why they're free of the cage. And they think, after walking for, like, a while, they think that it's just a deserted island that they crashed on.
I saw part of it.
Like a shipwreck, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But then they end up getting assaulted by tourists wanting to take pictures of Pikachu. And they're like,
And Togepi.
what? And Togepi. They're like, why are there tourists on a deserted island? Maybe it's not deserted after all. And then, sure enough, they find the city. Anyway, so while they're there, we get introduced to a lot of just new stuff, right? So they get into a fight with some punks being mean to a Lapras on the beach. And then they're going to get into a battle, right, with Pokemon. But then this new guy shows up, Tracy, and he's drawing pictures and stuff. He wants to draw pictures and take measurements of all the Pokemon. So he gets in the way, and they're like, knock it off. And he wanted to take the charge level of Pikachu, but before he can, they get into a fight. But of course, Pikachu's like, alright, and he zaps everybody. Then, of course, Tracy goes to talk to Joy and says, hey, take care of Lapras with this potion while I'm gone. And Lapras won't take it, but then Joy takes care of Lapras. And Lapras, we find out, is just really worried about people. Doesn't take care of people. And Ash is going to sing it to sleep so they can get it on the back of a truck to get it to water. But then Jigglypuff shows up and sings instead. And then they all fall asleep. And so it draws a picture over everything. And Tracy was going to start drawing a picture of Jigglypuff. But then when he wakes up, the picture of Jigglypuff also has a bunch of marker on it. Jigglypuff drew over everything. But then Team Rocket eventually does show up and kidnaps the Lapras on the truck. Yeah. And so then Ash gets on there and is writing an all action movie sequence, right? And then the truck kind of comes down a hill or whatever and goes up a ramp, which detaches it from the back of the truck somehow.
Yeah.
And the back of the truck goes back the other way on the hill, leaving Team Rocket wherever they flew off to, right? And so then they're trying to control it and whatever, and eventually they go off a cliff, going off into the water, but Ash encourages the Lapras as they're going down, and later on, everybody goes to the beach to find out what happened to Ash and Lapras, and Ash is just riding Lapras, and apparently Lapras decided to be Ash's Pokemon. And they all climb aboard the Lapras and sail away. So, and this is really the beginning, right? Because every episode, you're gonna, or at least that I've seen so far, it opens with them riding on Lapras to another island. Oh, they also learned a couple of things in this episode that help set up more of the mission, right? Because they still need to get the ball to Professor Oak. But now, Ash learned about the Orange League, so there's some other gyms to hit. So he wants to do those, and sort of gets permission from Oak. And also, we find that Tracy is a big Oak fanboy.
Yeah.
And that is where we're at. And I think we've been running for a while, so I was going to catch us up on what Pokemon we've evolved so far as we're trying to finish our Pokedex for the Kanto region in Red and Blue and Yellow, but that will just have to wait till next episode, I think, because we have other things going on. So, thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Rosella, for being a guest and chatting with us about the episodes. It was a lot of fun. And we will, next time, we will go through the rest of Volume 4 on the Pokemon Adventures manga, and we will go through another 4 or 5 episodes of the Pokemon anime from the Orange Islands. We'll see you next time. Bye!
Bye!
Chapter 5 Going Batty. Midori was using his old, battered Pokedex to illuminate the area behind the fallen chunks of ceiling, looking to see if there was any sign of what caused the incident, or if there were any more injured Pokemon. As he wandered deeper in, he heard Violet talking to V and her horsey. Nearby what must have once been a solid wall, Midori found a rough hole. He figured that whatever created the hole was likely what brought the ceiling down, but before he could investigate any further, a sharp scream pierced through the darkness. Midori immediately knew it was Violet, and rushed back through the rocks and back out into where he had left her and the 2 Pokemon. They weren't there anymore. Midori saw 2 figures in dark clothing fleeing the scene, but he ignored them as he scanned the area for his daughter. Violet!
I'm down here!
Honing in on her voice, Midori rushed to the edge of the cliff and looked down to see Violet in a very precarious position. It seemed that a sharp piece of rock had pierced the girl's coat as she fell and was now holding her there, just out of reach. Hearing him arrive, Violet looked up to see Midori at the top of the cliff, but her movement caused the coat to tear a bit more and she dropped another inch. Hold on, Violet. Don't move, Midori looked around, hoping to find anything useful. I'll find something to help. Then he was gone, and Violet was alone and helpless, holding tightly to Horsey's Pokeball. Up above, Midori was at a complete loss. The only thing he could think of was to call for V, and so he gave a sharp whistle. Normally, the pale-furred Eevee would rush forward instantly at that call, and, if farther away, let out a cry in acknowledgement. When neither happened, Midori felt his stomach drop out. He was astonished at how their journey had fallen apart so quickly. Am I cursed? This is just as bad as last time. Panic started to set in as his mind replayed memories from when he had last been in Mount Moon, and he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to rescue Violet just like he had failed the Clefairy years ago. Midori ran a hand through his hair and gave another shot at the whistle. Unlike before, he was met with a response, only it didn't relieve him, as it was not the response he anticipated. Ow! What the— Ah! There was another scream, but it wasn't Violet this time. Instead, it had come from a man. I'll get him, shouted a voice out from the darkness. That little beast tried to eat me! Then Midori recognized the cry of V and thought he heard the echoing patter of furry feet coming closer. But there were other, heavier footsteps, and the shouts of the 2 men seemed to draw close behind. Midori rushed forward and could finally see his Pokemon and his 2 pursuers. 2 men with big letter R's on their uniforms. Midori wasn't going to be able to reach V before they did. Still, he wasn't going to give up and prepared himself to get into a brawl. Suddenly, adding to the cacophony of sounds echoing throughout the caves, there was a 3rd scream. Unlike the other 2, this one wasn't human. The 2 men suddenly stopped chasing the Eevee as a Golbat swooped down, straight at them. They tumbled backward, narrowly avoiding the attack. Scrambling to their feet, they tripped over one another several times and accidentally stepped on each other's fingers. Eventually, they were up and managed to both face the same direction. Not wanting to waste the opportunity, they fled down deeper into the cave, away from Midori, V, and the swooping Golbat. Midori offered the bat a salute and said, Thanks, friend. You really came in the nick of— Another sudden scream erupted from Violet as her jacket tore a little more, reminding Midori that there were other, more pressing matters to attend to than thanking a Golbat. V, come on! Rushing back to where Violet was about to fall to her doom, Midori dropped to his knees and slid to a stop at the edge of the cliff. He flattened himself to the ground and stretched as far as he could, but still couldn't reach the girl. He growled through gritted teeth and whipped around to V. Did you see any rope or a long stick or anything? The Eevee shook its head. Then the Pokemon ducked as something swooped over it. V was almost hit as something swooped by again, and after the 3rd one, the little Eevee simply got down as low as it could to avoid the rest of the Zubats that were coming through. Each one dove over the cliff and swarmed over Violet. She screamed and dropped Horsey's Pokeball as she tried to protect herself. All the movement proved too much for the integrity of her jacket, and it tore through the rest of the way, sending Violet screaming into the depths. Violet! No! However, Violet's scream didn't grow more distant and, instead, became louder as it drew closer. The swarm of Zubats were flapping and screeching their way back to the top of the cliff, over Midori's head, and then gathered just to the other side of him. When they finally dispersed to land a few feet away, there was a girl standing on the ground in complete surprise. Violet! Midori rushed over and held the girl tight. After a minute, the shock began to wear off and she hugged her father back. They looked back over to the Zubats that had rescued Violet and found the Golbat landing in front of the other Pokemon and dropped a scuffed-up Pokeball at its feet.
Is that Horsey?
The Golbat lifted its wings as if to shrug and then nudged the ball, making it roll forward a few inches toward Violet. Midori was astonished at the sudden turn of events. What's going on? I mean, thank you. Thank you for saving my daughter. The Golbat flapped a wing and the swarm of Zubat drifted apart, revealing the smallest of the Zubats lurking in the back of the crowd. One of its wings looked a little funny, and Violet suddenly realized what must have happened.
That's the one we helped get out from under the rock.
Midori's eyes widened. Is that your child? The Golbat nodded. For a moment, no person or Pokemon moved. They all simply looked at one another with gratitude and how they had all helped one another out. Then the Golbat cried out and flapped its wings, and it seemed to be a signal to the rest. All the other Zubats moved around the littlest one, and each gave a wing flap, some of them hitting the poor thing right in the face. But it didn't seem upset or hurt by the interactions, and to Midori, it looked as if they were performing some kind of ritual. Then the little one and the Golbat looked at one another. The Golbat flapped twice and screeched, and then it pointed a wing at Midori. The little one took a few steps forward, and the rest of the Zubats moved back further. The little Zubat looked up at Midori and held up its wings as if waiting for something. When Midori didn't do anything, the Golbat let out a screech, flapped its wings, and tapped the Pokeball in front of it.
I think it wants you to catch it,
Violet suggested. Midori looked back and forth between the little Zubat and the Golbat, more surprised than ever. Are you sure? The Golbat nodded again. Midori returned the nod to show he understood the importance of the interaction and was taking it seriously. He pulled out one of the Pokeballs they had just bought before leaving Cerulean City, tossed it toward the little Zubat. The ball hit the ground, popped open, and the Zubat was consumed by the light inside before vanishing completely. The ball shut, dinged once, and then clicked. With a last, parting look, the Golbat and the rest of the Zubat swarm took off back into the cave, leaving Violet's horsey Pokeball behind for her to collect. To be continued.